Namaskar. April 7th, episode number 136 of Daily Global Insights. I am with Sridhar Chityalaji. Sridharji, Namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar and good morning, and a warm welcome on a Wednesday morning.
And in today's important headlines, IAF Rafales armed with MICA air-to-air missiles flying in Ladakh, manufactured by European defense major MBDA. Japan powers up strategic Indian islands, Andaman Nicobar battery energy storage system, mouth of Malacca, as Washington prepares for SUGA. Biden Infra Plan, White House walks back 19 million job claim, will create only 2.7 million jobs, and Biden to set April 19th as the deadline for opening vaccines to all. And in US news, Trump PAC, Political Action Committee, has 85 million on hand as Trump prepares for midterm elections and a potential 2024 rerun. What are your thoughts on Trump's fundraising, sir?
Amazing. In one sentence, in one word, it's amazing. So there's a lot of funds that seems to have been flown in by virtue of a whole set of actions that has taken place since his departure. So he seems to be he was probably sitting on the fence, but he seems now fairly well funded and well armed to not only to take back the Senate and probably the House, but clearly the Senate to start with, and then position himself for the 2024.
And remember, viewers, yesterday we talked about customs catching a couple of Yemeni terrorists, and today they have deleted the press release outlining the arrest of these two people. Now, why is this thing going back and forth, sir? Biden's team is flip-flopping on too many issues.
Yeah, look, I think by the time we put a ticker in news, and by the time we come on the show, the news changes. That's the policy-making process that is kind of going on. There's a little secret. Someone has asked the question, I think it is the press secretary, is Biden in touch with Obama? So the response that came in was that he's almost every day or regularly in touch with Mr. Biden. So I don't know whether these things are changing as a result of some of these discussions. But as far as these they come up with answers that doesn't seem defies logic. The rationale is that there's potential sensitive information. So therefore, that is the reason why it was deleted. There's no question, there's nothing about what's happened to these people. Are they arrested? Are they there?
And Jen Psaki, the spokesperson of White House, says suspected terrorists crossing the border is very uncommon. So it's something like what you just said, sir. They're just adding more to it. And Mike Pompeo, the ex-Secretary of State, blasts the Major League Baseball for boycotting Georgia. Now the economic impact is beginning to dawn on everyone and people are beginning to walk back. For example, White House now downplaying Biden pulling all-star game from Atlanta. So now you see that even President Biden is having second thoughts. Remember, viewers, next year there is going to be a Senate election one more time in Georgia. So lots of things are going to happen. Georgia has become like an epicenter of a lot of activity, isn't it, sir?
Yeah. Here's the most important message that we want to deliver on Georgia. As a community, the people who are mostly impacted, highly impacted, is the African American community in an economic context in Georgia. So they have really hurt where they did not want it to, and this is kind of staring stark at their specific face. So therefore, they thought that these are deprived communities, so therefore they need to be. But then they have hurt them economically and depriving them not only of the game, but the potential flow of income into their livelihood.
And this wokish behavior has to stop. People have to stop and think before they engage their mouth and their actions. And I blame some of the progressive elements and Democrats who seem to be just off on a run right now. I don't know who is really instigating all these people, but certainly they need to think before they act. And they are taking people for a ride. They are hurting the very people that they say they are spokespersons for. Unfortunate, sir. Mitch McConnell says now he is now ripping MLB, Delta, Coke for irritating the Republican fans. Why did he wait for so long?
Sometimes, as they say in the Republican Party, rhinos wake up a bit late. So therefore, he probably has seen the political kind of consequence. There's no leadership from the Senate in terms of all the stuff that is going on. Everything is coming from the people. Now he has realized lots of things is slipping under the ground, and he doesn't want to be the Republican GOP leader in opposition right now, presiding over what we call a disaster. So I think, look, the good thing is that he has spoken, albeit being late.
Sir, viewers, remember that we were one of the first to say we looked at the law. We, in fact, read the law. Sridharji took the trouble of reading the salient points of this voter law and said that we don't see anything wrong with what it is saying. And still, somehow, there was a mindset that, you have to go and oppose it. Now, Stacy Abrams is to blame for costing Georgia $100 million in lost All-Star game revenue by Senator Rand Paul. Did you see our hangout, Senator Rand Paul? We said the exact same thing. Anyway, it's good that now many people are speaking up about the possible hurt or the damage that this is causing to the blacks.
African American community, it is generally they seem to be at the receiving end, either way. They are aggrieved, and then you find that these people think that they are trying to help them. On the contrary, it goes the opposite way. It's very sad, sir.
And in a survey, 73% of black voters say voter ID is necessary for a fair and secure election process. Now people will start doubting this survey, saying that this survey was done by A, Y, B. Sir, any idea who did this survey, sir?
I think that it is a local poll kind of organization. It's not Gallup or one of these Pew Research or something. It's one of the local polls. We'll share the results. We'll give more details. By the way, this is a vast number of them are African American communities who have voted in this specific poll. They have actually asked and insisted for voter ID to be present. They have not stated that we don't want voter ID.
And Biden team now eyes restarting work on Trump border wall after 1.5 million people have been illegally let inside and then made to mix with people in all the cities. What is this thing? Why do these people keep going back and forth, sir?
Astonishing. Just in March alone, I think we put up some numbers, right? So
yes. 150,000. Yeah.
I think 400, 600, no, 400 to 500, 600,000 numbers. So it's pretty close to between January, February, and March alone. We are close to around 500,000 people who have. This is what you call a reasonable, accuracy or reasonable numbers. We don't know the kind of the total magnitude of this issue.
And in Biden infrastructure plan, now White House walks back the 19 million jobs claim, and now it says that it will create 2.7 million jobs. I can understand a 10% rounding error. This is beyond that, sir.
I think Biden, to be honest with you, to be respectful to him as an elderly man, a man probably who is suffering, okay, to be respectful to him, I think he's not capable to be a president. He has problems, and that is why you are seeing all these gaffies that is going around. I don't even know whether they have done a fitness for purpose kind of a assessment on Mr. Biden, but it's very sad state of affairs. Not just in this, in every one. On any policy matter, 3 times 3 different statements, and then you got a press secretary who is nothing but very close to a disaster.
And the Democrats' election overhaul threatens voter ID loss. This swings the door for fraud wide open. Now, so this is essentially a replication of something that has started and in the opposite direction, isn't it? I mean, the Democrats want it to be even simpler.
Yeah, I think the Democrats wants to be overrule any of these conditions and come up with a federal election structure, which specifically is mandated and directed not by bipartisan Republican Democrats, but by a Democrats team. We touched on this filibuster concept. Now they have stated they got the parliamentarian, the senator, the person who has given the ruling in the Senate, and that they can use the filibuster 2 times. Mr. Schumer is up in kind of hands and say, now we're going to get this done. I mean, it's quite shameful, which is namely to say, they will get it done, but it will be challenged in various courts, and it'll make it so awry that it will not be workable.
And in global news, the United States is considering joining boycott of 2022 Olympic Games. So this was again one of those things where there seems to be some rethinking on the part of United States. Are they going to be in or are they going to be out? What are your thoughts, sir?
We have had three statements. This statement is boycott. The second statement is the State Department walks out on or walks back on this statement. The second statement. Today, as I come into the show, the third is the statement is that we will have a coordinated effort with our allies to determine what exactly we will be doing with regard to the boycott. So that's the latest kind of position. So flip-flops continue, more flip-flops continue. So more and more Biden administration kind of looks like, it doesn't know what it's doing.
And ASEAN leaders to meet over Myanmar under Brunei's chairmanship. Do you think Myanmar is headed for any kind of resolution, sir?
Myanmar will, once the ASEAN steps in, they will reach out informally to the junta and come up with a compromise. Generally, the ASEAN people work together. Culturally, they know how to kind of work together. As long as the foreign powers don't interfere, I think ASEAN will figure out. Indonesia is also leading. Indonesia is making a major effort that we shouldn't be having a confrontation amongst us and creating social polarization because everybody, seamlessly moves and works together. So I have a feeling there could be something coming out, which is a win-win rather than lose-lose situation.
And Biden now suggests to UK a Belt and Road plan rivaling China's, similar to Japan. How can you have a Belt and Road across the pond?
Yeah, well, we have to ask Mr. Biden how he's going to build this Belt and Road pond. I think that he suddenly has, come up with the thought process. Hey, this Quad is not mine. It is Shinzo Abe, and President Trump was reluctant initially, and then now he's kind of run with it. So now we need to have something because we need to satisfy our left-wing, left-leaning EU, NATO allies. So we will now have a Belt and Road plan for across the pond. So it's the same, smart cities and 5G. Let's see what comes out of it.
Sir, I just have a slight segue. Whenever there is mixed messaging coming out of White House, the person responsible for all this is the White House Chief of Staff, isn't it? That is the person who's supposed to be doing and making sure all the moving parts are moving in the same direction, isn't it, sir?
It's a fantastic question. I think that it's a great kind of intrusion in terms of what you have asked. Absent, missing. It's only the press secretary who is issuing statements. Absent, missing.
and US to now join talks aimed at salvaging Iran nuclear deal and begin indirect talks in Vienna. I thought Iran said they don't want US on the talking table, isn't it?
We have no idea what exactly is going on there. So I think that it's all speculative. It says that it wants to get back into the discussions. They're giving a political fillip because Obama thinks that, it is his deal. So his deal has to be resurrected. So they're trying to resurrect. Iran is basically saying, who the hell you are? We don't want to talk to you. So that is the abrasiveness at which. So they probably have had some conversation, but with a representative. It's not state. It's not the Secretary of State. It's not the Assistant Secretary of State. It seems to be some kind of a nominee, who seems to have been part of the discussion.
And Vladimir Putin now signs into law, allowing him to stay in power until 2036. And looks like the opposition leader Navalny is becoming sicker by the day, sir.
I think Vladimir is the king of Russia, sir. So therefore, he is now the czar. He will do anything that he thinks that he wants to do. But overall, when you look at it, these are all very despicable set of activities and actions that are going on, and how these people can be part of G7, part of UN, part of this. When there is no morality and when there's no ethics in terms of any kind of governance and transparency in terms of the process. So yes, Navalny is now diagnosed with COVID. I don't know what the hell they're going to do in Russia. While he does that, he basically also issued a statement, by the way, which is to say, all troop movements within my borders is my prerogative. Nobody has. I can take provocative, but I'm within my borders. Okay, I'm not into your territory, right? So all these types of actions. So we are woken up. Russia was a sleeping giant for the past 4 years. It has now been woken up.
And as Russia fortifies the Ukraine border, John Kerry talks climate with Russian foreign minister in India.
Yes, this is the triumvirate meeting that we discussed a couple of days ago. What the hell is going to happen when you have Kerry, when you have Lazarov, when you have Mr. Jaishankar, plus when we have very soon there, I think there's already the foreign ministers of Australia and France there. So what exactly are they going to discuss? He goes all the way to India and have impromptu, informal discussion on the sidelines when Lazarov is there for striking some kind of an army, the arms deal, S-400 and those AK-47, and he's discussing climate with the Russians.
And a little bit of perspective on why Russia is amassing borders on Ukraine border, viewers. We had a hangout with Abhijit Iyer Mitra, episode number 9. We'll try and put that link in this show more section in case you want to go and see what happened there. But the most important thing there is Ukraine has stopped giving water to Crimea. Crimea, if you remember, was annexed by Russia, saying that it is full of Russians. They even had a sham vote there and claimed that Crimea is part of Russia. And right now, for all practical purposes, Crimea is part of Russia, except that Ukraine is blockading their water. And this is why Russia is now fortifying on the Ukrainian border. Wait for news, and this is going to be a major event. And as always, East Europe is another cauldron again coming alive, sir.
I think this Ukrainian stuff of the water that is just coming up right now is a diplomacy failure. But I will let the other kind of thing run through. But I go back to my point, which is to say, a sleeping giant has been woken up.
And in other news, Japan eyes F-35 deployment in South for Senkaku Defense. So this is south of Japan, isn't it, sir?
Correct. I think that if you remember, there is this triumvirate point we have shown to happen. And there was some skirmishes very recently, what the Chinese call Dijiao Islands. Apparently, there was a whole bunch of people who came in the fishing boats, got stranded in the island, in the Dijiao Island, which is pretty close. And when investigations were done, they found that they are not fishermen, but they're PLA. Okay, PLA, and they're saying they're waiting for reinforcement. So Japan got quite irate, and the situation seems to be diffusing, but it's not going to kind of go away. We also threw a couple of maps around that specific region as to what's going on. But having said that, and I think that Japan is saying, I'm not going to take it idle anymore. By the time SUGA comes here, I think there will be some kind of resolutions on this.
And Japan powers up strategic Indian islands, Andaman and Nicobar, battery energy storage system at the mouth of Malacca Strait as Washington prepares for the visit of SUGA. This is a significant development because it is going to help India immensely, isn't it, sir?
It is going to help India immensely, but it is also fortifies the position that India is a key member of the Malacca blockade. The narrow strait is very important for the Chinese kind of the ships. So if you apply the blockade, that can significantly choke the energy and other resources that flows through that specific region. So I think that in a subtle manner, I think it's about $36 million of investment has happened. But Japan is also investing along with I don't know about Israel, but Japan is investing to actually expand infrastructure in the Andaman Nicobar Islands, both in terms of commercial, civil, as well as the military infrastructure.
And in other news, Israeli president picks Benjamin Netanyahu to form a government one more time. If you remember, Israel just went to elections, there was a hung verdict, and we have to see if this coalition will hold together. What are your thoughts, sir?
It's $1 billion question. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And my good friend, Mr. Naftali Bennett is also waiting in the wings, which is to say whether he will get his turn to become the Prime Minister of Israel. So therefore, so I think that it is all in the mix. But I'm glad that Netanyahu has been invited. So let's hope he can cobble up a government.
It's a curiosity question. Mr. Bennett, was he the defense minister of Israel up until now, anytime?
Correct. He was the IDF. Yeah.
Okay. That is the telltale sign that he is being groomed for a prime ministership. Let's hope that your friend becomes the prime minister. We'll have a friend in Israel. Your P gurus would be very happy if something like that would happen. And in other news, Pentagon ramps up attacks on resurgent ISIS. I'm again aghast. This is again confusing. Can you please unravel a little bit about what has been happening with ISIS vis-a-vis, the Biden administration has released all the prisoners from Guantanamo. Now, when Obama did half of those, that's when ISIS got restarted or rebooted, and now it is fully out. So what is this game that Biden's administration is playing?
Well, I think they've suddenly seen the resurgence, right from, though Mosul is still free, but that entire stretch from Mosul to Raqqa, the region, slipping into the northern Syria, they say it seems to be back active. Many of the activities that happened, including the couple of days ago, the rockets being launched into the green zone, rockets being launched near Kirkuk in the upper north. All that seems to point out the ISIS is resurgent. There was also, if you recall, bombings, the street bombings in Baghdad, which resulted in death. So just basically saying that though the territories are not yet being controlled, but these fellows are now coming out of the hole, and some recruitment is also kind of going on. So I think the United States has responded, the Pentagon has responded, and they're trying to take out some of these people. Remember, there's another isolated incident which we covered, but which needs to be contextually aligned in Mozambique. The ISIS or whatever the African form, they took over an army camp, and there was a massive kind of massacre about a week ago, I think.
Yes, we covered that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you saw the resurgence, right? So you saw that. Then we have seen that in Yemen, and we have seen Al Qaeda footprint in Iran. So all this kind of makes it that those three, from Africa to Iran to Iraq to northern Syria, really a problematic area again back.
So this will probably pay back from Biden administration for those gun companies that lent money to his campaign. Who knows? Anyway, Indian news: Indian economy is projected to grow at a historic 12.5%, with COVID being a potential impediment, according to the International Monetary Fund, popularly called as IMF. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, my thoughts are, I think that there is a general positive buoyancy in India. There was a very good article that everybody should read that just this morning P Gurus published around the what you call the Renaissance and the emergence of India. It's a very nice article that has been kind of put together. So I think India is basically saying it has its strategic flexibility. Its focus is around, we have talked, and the 12.5% is coming on the back of the pent-up demand and the growth, plus some of these programs, structural programs, which is the program-linked incentive, PLI programs, are beginning to slowly take effect. When I look at, this is not the program, when I look at some of the macro indicator numbers and micro numbers in terms of what we are seeing in some of the sectors of the economy. Even manufacturing has picked up by virtue of the exports. Of course, the services sector is going to be the impetus. So it may be kind of little bit checks and balances and trundles as India, grapples with COVID, but the number is very much, whether it's 10% or 12.5%, it's still a good number for India to continue to march the economic journey.
And in other news, Singapore Stock Exchange is going to open an office at Gift City, Gandhinagar. Now, Gift City was supposed to be the alternative to National Stock Exchange, the Mumbai Stock Exchange, the Bandra Kurla complex that is now seen as being overcrowded. This has been in the works for many, many years. It has been the dream of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to get this thing. Your thoughts, sir? Is that going to give it the final, the recognition that Gift City was looking for?
The gift city, I mean, they wanted to build a model city which is around, which is the financial kind of ecosystem and the hub. There's also a subtle message. They don't want to have Mumbai to be the sole. So they're moving a lot of trading activity because Gujarat is big trading center. So they're moving into that. So they've kind of created the infrastructure. And whenever there is trade, that means that stock exchange is very critical. Near term, Singapore is one of the leading exchanges, both to trade in Singapore as well as for some of the investors to kind of leverage the market. So I think you're finding that. I'm also told that there's a fintech city also that is coming up in in this gift city kind of area. So I think my objective is to basically say there's some positive sentiments from the markets, not just simply the money flows, but also capital and capabilities to expand the trading horizon.
And as we covered before, IAF Rafales armed with MICA air-to-air missiles are flying in Ladakh, and these are manufactured by the European defense major MBDA. IAF has received around 14 Rafales from Dassault Aviation India, blessed to have. This is a huge thing now. Rafales are getting deployed, and they also have some of the most modern technology, sir.
Very, very. I think that it just basically reaffirms to the Chinese we are not going to go away the Himalayan region. We are going to inch more and more and more forward. Okay, it is an open and brazen demonstration of the planes. I think there is probably also some joint exercises with the French. I think training and going on. So they are getting really acclimatized to one of the most ravaged hilly regions where these planes are flying and getting themselves kind of acclimatized. And they're surface-to-surface missiles, so which also gives them that empowerment, especially because in Tibet, China has a very big Air Force base. We also should kind of reaffirm that, go back, which people should not forget that these BrahMos missiles, various points in the Himalayan region, the BrahMos missiles are now deployed in a kind of a strategy. So therefore, I think India is saying Himalaya is ours. The region that you took away is ours. And, we are ready and fully equipped to deal with any challenge that you may pose.
And World Bank chief says that India is blessed to have a major manufacturer of global vaccines like the Serum Institute. Now, there has been some other controversy about this, but we will set that aside for now. At least there is an acknowledgement from the World Bank chief that India is a powerhouse in serums.
It is. Just to give you a little incident, to woo Chile and Colombia, the Chinese kind of sent some vaccines to those two countries. Okay, remember that India had initially supplied, this is the Sinovac vaccines that they had sent. So India had initially given them, almost close to about 500,000. So apparently, this is the breaking news, India supplied some more vaccines into those territories. So India is also doing what you call blocking and tackling and trying to tell them, just in case these vaccines fail. By the way, we are here to kind of continue the journey. India is not going to give up its vaccine diplomacy. India is not going to let its position loose. It will fight its way and then it will reassert itself. Anyway, India is the largest producer of vaccines in the world of various categories.
And in global COVID update, Biden has set April 19th as the deadline for opening vaccines to all, sir. How realistic is this?
No, April 19th. No, I think that, no, they're going forward. The vaccine program is going very well, thanks to Biden's team. They're doing a very good job on. So I think that now vaccines are available, sir. I don't know rest of the country, but certainly in New York, in these places, I mean, you can go CVS, you can go to Walgreens, you can go to Duane Reade, you can go to hospitals. Appointments are available, vaccines are available. So I think it's a commendable job in terms of getting the distribution right. Yes, there are hiccups like we saw that in the case of the AstraZeneca in Maryland. But other than that, I think, apparently in vast number of Central America, Still, people are a little bit hesitant to take the vaccines, but there's plenty of supplies available in the middle of Africa, middle of America, in the red states, etc. That those who want to be vaccinated. No, let's go. I think that it's a great program, and I think I think that by September, I feel that we'll be in a good spot.
And this is just Bay Area information. Now you can get the J&J vaccine. It is open. Anybody can go to these places. You have to just look up where J&J vaccines are being administered, and it is open for everyone. You can just go and take a J&J vaccine. That's what I heard 2 days ago, sir. So we'll see. This is becoming much more easier to access now. And in other news, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp opposes state-mandated vaccine passport. Now, we talked about these vaccine passports for a little bit, where we said that, if you have vaccine from one country, you can use this passport to go and travel to another country. However, there is a new news that I read yesterday. I don't know how true this is or not. That this is a New York Post. I don't know how true this is, but evidently there is a new dual mutating virus variant that has been spotted in Stanford. And this dual mutant virus is something that evidently was carried by somebody from Maharashtra into the United States. So now if you look at the major variants, you have South African, you have Brazilian, you have and now you have this dual mutating thing, and it's again something that is spreads very, very fast. So and this could be the reason why there is an uptick in COVID cases in Maharashtra, sir.
I think so. I think I think the uptick in India is basically people took it very easy. That's the general observation that I got. They were freely kind of moving around as nothing has kind of happened. They were incognito around the variants that are kind of coming in. See, I mean, no point in blaming hospitals, beds, and so on. Suddenly, if you come to a hospital where you have, instead of 10 people, 1,000 people, will they have capacity? Suppose 100 guests land in your house when you have only 5. Will you have capacity? But having followed no discipline, basically Indians by and large were lethargic and they were negligent. And they took it for granted, and think life is kind of normal after that initial kind of discipline, lockdowns, and so on. But anyway, I think the vaccine program is underway, and they will kind of get a resolution. If you give me 5 seconds, I want to show my vaccine passport. If I can,
Sure. It's a piece of card, isn't it?
It's a joke.
Sridharji is searching for his vaccine passport. I've seen it. It's like a square card, about 3.5 inches and by 3.5 inches, with paper, pencil markings and so on and so forth. And that is evidently your passport. At any rate, Sridharji is rummaging through his stuff to get that for us. And
I'm not able to find it. I'll show it tomorrow.
Yes, sounds good, sir. We can see it tomorrow. And let's move on now to markets. The Dow also falls nearly 100 points from record highs. So this is like a profit taking, perhaps. The same thing with S&P and other indices. For today, what are your thoughts, sir?
Today, my thoughts are that it will kind of up and down. The markets are a little bit up today. Early signs are a little bit up. But there's a very profound statement made by Jamie Dimon, last night that got released this morning, which is to say that the deficit funding, the effect is likely to go on till 2023. So you will begin to see the positive buoyancy in the economy as a result of the money in the system. So you will see some sentiments. It's purely driven by earnings and sentiments on that specific day. So people gain opportunities. As you rightly said, take positions, take profits, etc. So that's what is going on.
And crude slips a little bit to $59.38, and so does Bitcoin. It's at 58,275. And oil prices slip after OPEC Plus agrees to ease output. So when you ease output, then the prices should go up, isn't it? So
ease output is more supply.
Oh, I see. Output restrictions then.
Correct.
Okay. And that's all we have in our news today. We'll be happy to see you back again tomorrow. Please do subscribe to this alternate channel of ours on YouTube. because sometimes we get some restrictions placed on us. Our primary channel is down for this week. We'll be back again on that channel from next Monday, but tomorrow and Friday you will be again getting news on this channel. It doesn't matter for you. If you're following us on Twitter or on Facebook, you will be getting the link. All you need to do is click on the link. Namaskar, Sridharji. Thank you so much, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.